Good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to Flipboard's first Engage Every Student. This is a free online conference. We're devoted to helping teachers and educators learn the different aspects of using Flipboard, both in the classroom and together. And today we're going to show you some of the basics of that, how we use Flipboard here, and also hearing from educators who've really cracked the code on different ways to use Flipboard across their own educational and tech needs. They'll give you an overview of how to use Flipboard both for multimedia, how to make magazines in different with collaborative magazines, fostering the connection between students and material, or teachers and faculty. We're also going to talk about how to showcase different activities using Flipboard. We're very proud to be working closely with the Flipboard Club. This is a group of amazing people who've come together to help other people learn about Flipboard. These are people you'll hear from today, like Linda Bernstein, Josh Allen, Amy Vernon, and Marcella McGee. Some of my favorite magazines that they make. Linda makes a great one on classical music and chocolate. Josh makes one on ed tech and also pancakes on Sunday. Amy makes some beautiful magazines on everything from Siberian Huskies to her own sharing her own writing. And Marcella makes ones about everything from chemistry to great reading with boys. So I think if you get a chance after this conference to follow them and absorb some of their own content they share, I think you'll really enjoy it. The Flipboard Club also hosts a chat on Wednesdays that's called #FlipboardChat, and you should make sure to participate in that over time. So I want to spend a little bit of time today talking about what we're doing at Flipboard, where we come from, sort of a little bit about our heart and soul, a little bit about how Flipboard came to be, and then show you how you can use it in classrooms and what some of the interesting ways we're seeing it happen organically. Mia Quagliarello, who will speak after me, will also take you on a little tour of Flipboard. So for those of you who've never used it, you get a chance to go hands-on there. And then we'll go into the other speakers for the day and hope you would have a great experience here. Be sure to give us feedback. And to follow along or to share your own stories, share magazines that you like, use #FlipEDU on Twitter, and we'll be watching that. Jen De La Vega, who runs community for us, will be there to answer questions or continue the conversation. So at this point, I would like to go into a presentation that I put together to shortly give you an introduction to why Flipboard was created the way it was and what we hope to do with education over the year ahead. So I'm going to switch now to my presentation mode, and bear with us here as we do that. Okay, so my slides should be up now. Thanks for the patience there. And I wanted to start with a little background on Flipboard. Some of our inspiration, what we're doing around education. First, we are about 150 people based in Palo Alto, California. We also have an office in New York and a few remote employees in both Seattle and Vancouver, as well as in Beijing. The idea of Flipboard came together in late 2009 when we launched the first version of Flipboard on the iPad, and then we launched the first version of Flipboard on the iPad in July of 2010. Along the way, we had a few cornerstone thoughts that really shaped how we started, but are also a big part of who we are today, and I thought I'd share a couple of stories with you to give you some perspective as to how Flipboard sort of came to be. We think about we think about is that we hope Flipboard is a part of everybody's life, but also teachers in classroom and around campus. We believe that some of our founding principles really are particularly powerful there. The first story that I wanted to bring up is a lesson that rings true in our ears from the early days when Steve Jobs came to visit Flipboard. The second is about the way content has evolved over the past 5 to 10 years and how that has shaped Flipboard. And lastly, there's a bit about the program we're building for educators using Flipboard. I hope these stories share with you our perspective and inspire you to do more with Flipboard in your own educational work. Let me start with the Steve Jobs story. Steve Jobs came to Flipboard in 2010, June or so. He had just left Apple for medical reasons, as I think we all know, but seemed still very interested in the developers working on his products, in particular the newly released iPad. So one of our investors brought him by for a visit on a Sunday morning. It was not a normal day to be in the office, but we were all there at our desks, very quietly listening. So it was not a normal day in the office. We were not taking pictures, but we all sat in our own desks nearby and tried to be very quiet and listen to the conversation that was happening. I did manage to use my cell phone to capture this very grainy moment. At this point in the conversation, McCue, our CEO, was showing Steve Flipboard for the first time. A few minutes later, Steve takes the iPad out of his hands and starts flipping through the pages. And after a bit, he starts to get animated, and he stands up and he starts talking about the Tokyo fish market. He stands up and says, "There are dead fish as far as you can see, and the color is drained out of their bodies. We are killing all the fish in the ocean, and one day you'll have to explain to your children that there were once these big, beautiful animals that swam in the oceans that had color and were an amazing ecosystem that we've now destroyed." He was asking us who was going to tell that story, who's going to fund those stories, who's going to bring awareness and attention to some of the most important stories in our world that aren't being told. This is still a very aspirational part of Flipboard, to be a platform where people tell stories, share stories, and read information that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have seen, so that people can learn about the world around them, share stories, and become more empathetic, or be called to take action, or share a perspective and influence others. Whether it's changing the world or the way we study, access to information is what moves us forward as a society, and this has become Flipboard's mission. Some of the other things that have influenced us include the publication of Life magazine, not only for the important stories told, but for the very visual and visceral way that the magazine did that. The mission of Life magazine, here on the right, is it talks about the opening up of people's eyes, using imagery and capturing people's imagination, transporting you to the issue, not the issue, the cause, or that historical moment. Flipboard is also a believer in the power of great visuals to connect you to the experience that product can bring, that product or magazine can bring you into. But not just telling stories, not just providing those insights, which we think is invaluable, but also packaging together to influence. The story of Al Gore is one we can all relate to today, where he took scientific research, pulled it together in a way that others hadn't, packaged it, and allowed people to learn and explore a very significant issue around the globe. Whether or not you subscribe to all of the teachings of climate change, the bottom line is that the power of packaging will oftentimes help people understand and convince the world around them to move forward. Had Al Gore not packaged and promoted the science of research, we may not have the global awareness and activism we have today. Science has been researching and reporting for decades, but pulling this information together was what changed our thinking. So on Flipboard, we have a plus button that you can use to collect stories and tell your perspectives. And students can do this as well, which is what's particularly exciting to me, and I'll talk about a little later. There are packages, these packages are called Flipboard magazines. Al Gore makes a Flipboard magazine on Flipboard about the things he's reading. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that this is a place where influencers and everyday people alike can get together around ideas, collect stories, and share a point of view. So that's a little bit about our mission here at Flipboard. Now let me tell you what we think has happened to information today that's part of what shaped the company. We believe that a lot of the web designs are still stuck in the 90s. Things are getting better, but you'll get the idea when I show you. With the advent of social media, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, to keep caught up on the world, there's just a growing number of places and ways to do that. And to check every day and to participate every day, it gets a bit overwhelming. There's a new phenomenon called, maybe it's new to me, FOMO, fear of missing out, because there are just so many places where your friends may be sharing or news stories may be breaking. And to stay connected, it's a bit overwhelming. In the early days of Flipboard, we decided that we wanted to be a single place for you to stay up on everything or share everything. We wanted to work with all the social networks to integrate their services so that on Flipboard you can browse your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, your LinkedIn information, your YouTube channels, etc. But the phenomenon of information being everywhere is still a bit of a problem. Because when you choose to read information, it's a pretty cluttered experience. We'd all like the web to look like this. where there's a headline, clear story, the content's very obvious. But when you end up in these web experiences today, designers needed to do a variety of things. They needed to add navigation. They needed to add some of their own banners and branding. They needed to add some scrolling bars and some advertising, of course, and then some more. And before you know it, that content that you wanted to present to the world is relegated to a tiny little corner. And then to stay connected, you check email, and then you might go to a browser page, maybe over to Facebook, Twitter, and then use some clients to manage all the different Twitter accounts you have. And maybe you'll go check on the news for the day. So you get the concept that over the course of the day, to feel connected, it's very cluttered and disorganized. The web of the 90s has not evolved much, but our sharing and the amount of content in the world is growing exponentially. So how could Flipboard help give people that relief, that sense of feeling connected to the content that matters, and then also discovering the stories that really maybe aren't trending on Twitter that day? How do you surface the great stuff? So to work on this problem of information overload and cluttered interfaces, we looked at our inspiration at places like print. We look at the cover of the Wall Street Journal and the notion that headlines give you a good indication of what's important for the day. You know where to scan, your eyes know where to go. You can find the big stories and then also go deep on the little stories. But then there's publications like magazines, which use the amazing full bleed imagery of their layouts to convey stories and to really convince you that there's something important to follow along with. And of course, magazines can make content beautiful. You can use the full effects of imagery. You can use the full screen, double wides, if you will, of information graphics that help you stay connected to the world in a way that you can't in the complex 90s web of the 90s. And of course, content can be very relevant. So if you're into something, you can go really deep. So Flipboard was created to have one place for all the things you're interested in. It allows you to tap into any of the tiles and go deep on style, business, travel, and also things like I mentioned before, classical music or DIY. And then what you do by picking a few topics, you can quickly get a feed of content. You can look at these stories by flipping up, and Mia will go into a demo of that. And on the bottom, on the far right-hand side, you'll see an example of flipping through, and here's a story. And at the bottom of the story on the left, there's a little rectangle, and that's a topic. This article is related to a topic about photography. And if you really want to explore on Flipboard, you just tap that topic, and here you are into a whole feed about portrait photography, which is gives you the amazing ability to really explore the stories related to things that you're interested in, and allows you to go deep and learn. This is an article in here put in by a gentleman named Lee Rogers, who makes a beautiful magazine called Life Behind Glass. And if I tap on Lee Rogers' name, you'll see it there under the portrait photography tag. It says Lee Rogers. If I tap on his name, I can explore him, and I get a chance to see the other magazines he's created. So when you make your Flipboard magazine, be sure to put in a little description of who you are so that you can find other educators or teachers or students who are making magazines and learn about their interests and go deeper and follow people that are of like mind. So lastly, I want to go into, just to conclude on the magazines, there are about 25 million magazines on Flipboard, just about on everything you can imagine. Use the search and you can see what you can find, or create your own. But I want to go into a quick overview about Flipboard on campus now. So what we have found is that when on campus, the idea of sharing ideas and knowledge and learning is so rampant that Flipboard becomes a really powerful tool, and it's super exciting to us. I'll just go through a few examples, and then I'm going to tell you about the program we have and turn it over to Mia. So what we've heard is that Flipboard really helps bring a classroom to life. It helps enrich the classroom by allowing the students to collaborate on magazines like this Gender Roles magazine, where they're learning together to explore the issues around gender. And then students can also use Flipboard magazines in clubs or to explore the world around them. So there's robotic clubs, there's music clubs. In this case, Marcella makes a great magazine called Virtual Field Trips that takes students outside of the classroom. And these types of packages, it both enrich classroom inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom, either in reading or in teams and also in clubs. We also find Flipboards particularly powerful for programs on campus. Student journalism is something many, many campuses have, and this is an amazing way for journalism students not only to do research and package stories together about the stories that they're writing, but also to do things like share the latest happenings on journalism, latest trends in writing, great best practices, people who are winning awards, or great articles that are being written from around the country. There's also just putting your own journalism magazines and writings into a Flipboard magazine and sharing it with teachers and also parents. It's very hard for parents to read the great stories that are being written on campus, but in a Flipboard magazine, it can be emailed out to the entire parenting community, which we're seeing some high schools do, which is pretty exciting. Lastly, I wanted to talk about faculty. Faculty can use Flipboard in a way that helps connect them not only to each other for professional development, but we've seen them use it. In this case, Michael Brody uses it to connect with his parents about preparations for college and college planning and SATs and ACTs and all those things that go along with college. So the pillars of the program that we're working on, and we still have ways to go here, but this is what we'd like to accomplish, is to create a destination where teachers can learn what other teachers are doing, create an opportunity for peer-to-peer conversations among educators, encourage educators through telling their stories and using and creating events and forums like this, and then celebrating the work that's going on by also sending them swag and t-shirts and making sure that we're sharing wins and exciting things that are happening, like some university teachers who are using Flipboard to submit for grants. So let me just show you a couple of those quickly. Providing a destination. If you go onto Flipboard and you type in @flipboardedu, you will come to the Flipboard profile. This profile is a profile of magazines of magazines. So if you're a high school AP literature teacher, there's one in here called English and Literature, and we try and put in here magazines we find that other teachers are making that fit these categories, and then we can show you what those teachers are doing and maybe inspire you to have your own classroom magazine. These are great examples. They're all created by educators or people in education, and we think that they're ways to get you started. There's also the Flipboard chat. The Flipboard chat, like I said, is thanks in great part to the Flipboard Club, and they host conversations on Wednesday evening, and then occasionally they will do a special event specifically for education. You can also use #FlipEDU to follow along and to have conversations ongoing on Twitter and other places so that you can learn from other teachers or give us feedback or ask us questions or even submit your own ideas. And then there's, of course, the blog. Flipboard.com/@FlipEDU is our blog, and there we highlight teachers and programs and events that are related to education, and we hope that you follow along there. Make sure to send us any great ideas, because we're always looking for stories to tell and ways that you've inspired your others to use Flipboard and ways that we can share that with the world. And lastly, we like to create a way to celebrate the great work that's happening. So we have an email that goes out once a month that we always are looking for spotlights on teachers. If you want to subscribe to that email, you go to the Flipboard, about.flipboard.com/blogs/educator, and you will find the ability to subscribe to that newsletter email. That way you can keep it up on what's going on and also send us great ideas if you have them. And I'm going to just spend 1 minute, because I'm out of time, on what I believe is, for me, one of the most exciting things is that social media on campus with students, not only just the professional learning that they're doing there on campus, but the social engagement that they have with Flipboard is awesome. Not only now they can use Flipboard to share their ideas and their interests, not just selfies and videos and the things that parents and teachers sometimes worry about, not the social pressures of social media, but instead the really great things that share their own points of view and perspective. We brought a bunch of students together and we did this ambassador experiment or we gave them Flipboard as a way and told them, like, use this to express yourself, share your own ideas, share great things you're into, and collaborate. And then when we did that, when we brought them in on Sundays, we would help them understand how to use Flipboard, but also hear their ideas back. And what we found is that you create sort of an amazing conversation among students who may not have talked to each other before. They find that they get super excited about their passion. They're all of a sudden reading a ton of content. They have access to the news, where a lot of them don't get newspapers at home anymore. They have a new respect for each other when they see each other in the halls, which I find super motivating, because that's part of how we connect our world, is by breaking down these barriers and having people learn about each other. And these types of stories are what inspires me every day to do more and more in education and to find new ways to bring Flipboard into classrooms, not only for learning, but also for connecting kids to the world around them and kids to each other and opening up those conversations. So that's a bit about how Flipboard came to pass and where I think our role is right now with education. We always want to learn more and do more. If you have feedback or ideas for us, we have an email alias that you can send any email into, either mine, which is here, Marci@flipboard.com, or flipboardedu@flipboard.com. Will go to all of us on the education team, and we'll be sure to stay connected.